but like with Dolph Lundgren, I want to see that Dolph Lundgren that kind of touches back to Universal Soldier. I want to see that psychological Dolph Lundgren, you know. Like Antonio Banderas, I know they wrote him as a comic relief in this, but I want to see the desperado. I want to see him reach back into his hair and pull out that shotgun and blow, you know, like.
I love Desperado.
Yeah, that was such a great movie. That was so good. So I can forgive Expendables for being PG-13 if we see, you know, some of those things. And I love that picture of Arnold. Arnold betraying Barney. Have you seen that picture where he's got Stallone up against the wall with the gun?
I hope that doesn't happen. I just hope that's a tease. I don't want to see Arnold go that route. I really hope that doesn't happen. I just hope they're just doing that for tease. I really hope that doesn't happen. I really don't.
Because the thing I keep on thinking about is those early teasers for the first Expendables. You know, the TV ones where they were saying, "Oh, this is Barney Ross. He gets in a lot of trouble. You know, it's a good thing he has friends to bail him out." And I keep on thinking about this, like, because they're talking about, you know, bringing Conrad Stonebanks as an original founder of the Expendables. Wesley Snipes is actually apparently an original founder of the Expendables. So I'm hoping maybe Barney gets into like a little thing where they don't know who the good guy and the bad guy is, you know. Or maybe Arnold will just be like, maybe he'll be doing that as a cover-up. You know, you never know.
Like the character from Indiana Jones 4, Ray Stone's character. He keeps going back and forth, you know.
Yeah, and I guess we'll find out in August, you know, how that's gonna play out. But
yeah,
I still want it. I still, you know, I still have hope. I still, you know, I still hope it goes well.
Yeah, me too. Maybe it'll, just like G.I. Joe 2, it gets canceled for this year, and then they can go back and make it R-rated. Mm-hmm. And maybe next year we'll have it. That's one hoping they'll do.
Yeah.
Definitely, because I really want this to be good. Definitely.
Yeah. And Sly was saying that they had to gut it a lot. He was saying in the Cannes interview, he was saying that the original cut was 4 hours, and it was really tedious to cut it back to, you know, the time restraint. So I hope they don't lose too much of that. I hope they don't go for we'll just try to cut scenes in half. Like, I really want to, you know, feel presence. And I don't like how nowadays films all gotta be 90 minutes, you know. Films are great, you know, in the past they're great they were 90 minutes because they were constructed to be 90 minutes. You know, if say if like the next Rambo comes out, for sure I want to see a Rambo movie that's like 2 hours long, you know, because I'm a fan. But the reality of it is that they cut it down a lot.
I liked Rambo 4, but one of the complaints from Rambo 4 that they thought it was too short. It didn't show much. I would have loved to see more.
Yeah.
I didn't mind Rambo 4, but I did complain that they should have had more with Rambo kicking ass. But I guess I kind of understand why they didn't add more, because Stallone was in Burma shooting it, and they were threatening to kill them, to shut the project down.
Yeah.
Because Burma didn't like the fact that this movie was coming out about them. Yeah. And of course I heard after the movie came out that in Burma that if you're found with a copy of the movie, they'll put you in jail or execute you or stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Even Tint, the character of Tint.
Yeah.
He did the movie because, you know, like.
Because he was one of the victims.
Yeah. And they threw his family in jail for just being in the movie. They incarcerated his whole family. You know, everybody, the children, the older people. It's tragic, you know.
That was ballsy for Stallone to actually do that, to go down there and put some people who've been in that situation in the movie. But I'm glad that he did, because it's kind of giving people in Burma new hope. Because ever since that movie came out, I saw a video about how that the movie inspired them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they brought in a Special Forces American like Rambo to help them down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's cool also because he could have died. He could have died on location. They told him, you know, if you cross this border here, that's it. We're gonna kill you. We're allowed, right? So it's one of those things where it's like the quote from the movie, like "live for nothing or die for something," it actually means something because all of the crew, you know, had to go through it. Even Julie Benz, she works for the not works for, but does the she's in charge of a lot of the Burma relief now.
Yeah, and she did that after she was in the movie.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. And it makes up for Rambo 3, even though Rambo 3 gets shit on a lot. Like,
Rambo 3 kind of had the same situation in the fourth one, because the Russians were killing these people and Rambo went down there. But the problem was that people shit on it because the guys he helped went on to become the bad guys.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. That's my favorite of the series.
Yeah, I love that one. I could watch that one over and over and over.
Yeah, because that showed more. That kind of showed Rambo's evolution, going from this burnt out Vietnam vet to this superhero.
Yeah.
Because that's how it was in the 80s. That's how it was in real life. That the Vietnam vets were mistreated. Then years later on, they were respected. I think Rambo did have part in that.
Yeah.
I believe if the Rambo movies weren't huge, I think the Vietnam vets wouldn't have gotten the respect they deserve.
Yeah, definitely.
I believe the Rambo movies really had to make a part in that.
I read it somewhere. I'm trying to remember where I read it.
It's actually in the Guts and Glory documentary on the box set.
Yeah, Yeah. Like, I read somewhere too, like, someone was saying how their husband came back from the war and they were having these intense nightmares, and the wife was always trying to ask the husband, like, what happened, what's going on, what's wrong with you, and he was just like freaking out all the time because he was so horrified by what happened to him that he couldn't tell his wife because he didn't want his wife knowing what he saw. Not out of shame, but he didn't want her to experience the horrors of what he went through.
He didn't want to pass it on to her.
Yeah, and then when First Blood came out, he said that he saw the movie, and it was the woman who wrote this. I'm trying to remember where she wrote it, but she went on to say, like, that movie actually brought us together, because the ending of that movie, when Rambo breaks down and everything, and the guy was like, that helped her husband to open up to her about the war. So, yeah, it has an impact.
Did they say anything about Rambo First Blood Part 2?
A lot. Well, there's the anti-Rambo documentary, which I'm going to be covering this month, sometime. But I watched the 2020 special on that.
Yeah, Rambo May, I saw that.
Yeah, and that's pretty intense. I'm trying to dig up more stuff about it, but no, like, as much I heard from that was like on the different documentaries, saying, you know, how a lot of people were cheering because that question was raised, you know, do we get to win this time? This time it's up to you, you know, that kind of
Yeah, and the cool thing about what you said about how that movie brought them together, and how sad it was, but Rambo First Blood 2 became more of a celebration, that it's because all those movies that came up for First Blood about coming home and the Deer Hunter, it's like Rambo 2 is like, you don't have to be ashamed of your life. You can go and kick ass. It went from, that's the cool thing about Rambo 2, it went from a normal drama, First Blood, to go and kick ass, you know, you can, no, it's okay to feel this way, and it became more of a celebration, even because Vietnam vets were cheering when he said, you would get to win this time. I was like, yeah!
Yeah.
And Rambo became an inspiration that you don't have to be dramatic with this all your life, keeping this on the shoulders. You can go and kick gas. That's what Rambo 2 was about. It wasn't all dramatic. It was about, go and kick gas. It's the 80s. You know, have fun.
Yeah.
Embrace it, you know?
Yeah. And it's funny that you brought up the Deer Hunter. Because I found that with Rambo 4, I saw a lot of that Deer Hunter quality. That war is not heck, war is hell. Deer Hunter, really great movie. It's a long movie. It's, three and a half hours long?
Mm-hmm.
But that hour that you're in Vietnam is so hard to watch. I remember watching that movie, and I watched it in French. For the first time I saw it in French. So I was watching TV one night, and it was on in French, and I was like, what the fuck is this movie with Robert De Niro and Chris Walken? I think it was like maybe 10 years ago. And it just shook the shit out of me. I caught it right at the part where they went right into Vietnam. You know, with the flamethrowers and all that? When the woman carrying her baby and they flamethrower the woman, and then she falls down, and then all the pigs are eating her baby. And it shook the shit out of me, like, to watch that. I actually watched the whole remaining 2 hours in French. And then I went out and I looked everywhere until I found it. Because I didn't know what the movie was called at the time. I had to do a search on it. And it's funny because, like, with Rambo 4, I find it's a throwback to Rambo 2. A lot of things from Rambo 2, a lot of things, how it was structured from Rambo 3, and a lot of, not just the First Blood mentality, but the First Blood mentality from the novel.
Yeah.
It was more like the Rambo from the novel. And then at the same time, there's just this real Straw Dogs kind of feel to it. Straw Dogs and Deer Hunter. And it was just, oh my god. It was insane. It was insane. No, it's Straw Dogs. Oh.
I felt like that. The fourth one, a lot of people said that the fourth one was like the second one, but it was more dark. Like the first movie, it was like people say the fourth one was like the second one, but it was more into the tone of the first movie.
Yeah. It's weird too because First Blood, right, is the one I won't say it had the lowest rating as far as the MPAA because it was still pretty bloody. Mm-hmm. Rambo didn't kill anybody in First Blood, but it's the bloodiest. And then you got Rambo 4. It's on that same line. You know, I don't think there's anyone, you know, like when the trailer alone, when that came out, I don't think there was anyone who didn't say, oh my god, this just looks like blood and guts. You know, halfway through the trailer, when they show that decapitation and then they really went for it. You know, I think that alone sold me because it showed me that the film quality that they were going for, very handheld and shaky cam, even though I had problems with that, I loved it for that movie because it felt like you were in the action. And at the same time, it was gritty. Like, the background feels gritty, the characters feel grittier, and the violence definitely is a lot more grittier. Like, the violence is very graphic.
Yeah, a lot of people said it was over the top. It was kind of like the gritty over the top. It was like mixing the grittiness with the over the top because how bloody it was, how they shot everybody up.
Yeah. And another thing too, Brent. I was reading a thing on Brent's Facebook the other day.
Yeah.
That I didn't even know this until I read this on Brent's Facebook. But that whole scene at the end with the .50 caliber, that's actually based on true events. Yeah. If you go look on Brent's page, it says like notes, Rambo notes or something like that. If you go on there, it will tell you the story. And it's weird because when I was talking to Wallace Lee, when he was writing the Q&A, I think he talks about the same person that's based on. So it kind of linked up.